Chapter 176 to 179. Inot. Vegeta yelled, very offended by the constant insults directed towards his person, race, and family lineage. Vegeta was so angry that he forgot that Broly could disintegrate him with a single blink, and that he had never shown any sympathy towards him. You have no idea. My family took power because they were the strongest and the smartest. The most worthy and legitimate to lead the Scions. Something that was recognized by our entire race. So much so that was decided to rename Planet Sadala to Planet Vegeta in our honor. Vegeta the Fourth shouted, defending the honor of Vegeta first. And obviously Broly further exacerbated his infamy. What does that matter? Even scientists put their name to venereal diseases. Which is something very similar to what your ancestors did. Growling. Do you know what the Scions were before my ancestor led them? They weren't much different than brainless, techless beasts trapped on a single planet, killing each other for food. It wasn't until my ancestors agreed with King Cold that we managed to be what we are now, Vegeta yelled, protesting again at Broly's accusations and insults. Be what? A race of slaves under the command of a tyrant who makes a living by massacring innocent people? An almost extinct race by the hand of the one with whom you prostrated yourselves. Broly said, mocking with extreme sarcasm of Vegeta and his arguments. Sarcasm and contempt that didn't make Vegeta hesitate for a second in his mission, defend the honor of his family and the pride of the Scion that his family had indoctrinated in his population, yes. Through massacres. All race. All civilization. All progress. All the glory is grounded over the corpse of millions of enemies and innocents. All our glory, power and recognition in the universe, we owe it to my ancestors. Thanks to them we are the most feared race in the universe. So much so that Frieza treacherously killed us for fear that the legendary Super Saiyan legend would come true. For fear that someone like you, someone like Kakarot, could be born among us. We only needed some more time to dethrone him. We just needed a little more time to be the absolute rulers of the universe. Ha 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 ha. Lovely. Do you really believe that, Vegeta? If I, the most powerful being born in all the universes, had demonstrated my power, you and your father would have tried to assassinate me or banish me from another planet before I mature for fear of dethroning you before killing Frieza. As for Goku or you becoming a Super Saiyan. Ha! If Goku had grown up under the system your family, he would never have become the Super Saiyan. Stop making excuses. Insect. Broly said as he got up from his luxury flying chair in a somewhat forced, furious and intimidating way as he looked at Vegeta. He looked at him as if he wanted to break his jaw to make him unable to speak again. And everyone, including Goku and Gohan, went on alert when they saw Broly's hand. A hand that was about to snap fingers. Everyone here knew that when Broly snapped his fingers the world changed radically. And this time his hand was pointed at Vegeta. Wait! Yam yelled, which came between Broly and Vegeta to prevent that his dwarf and with recessive hair were attacked. Clash. The snap had happened. And despite them nothing had happened to Vegeta or Yam. They hadn't been injured, turned into a tuna or had contracted diarrhea. Which meant that whatever had changed hadn't been them. Hey, where are we? It seems the same place, but we are no longer within that sphere, said Gohan, who looked around to try to locate himself. Amazing. I detect some very powerful keys. As powerful as... No. Impossible. Goku said as he took flight without asking Broly for permission or waiting for his son or former enemies to reach his destination. Wait Papa, Gohan shouted as he followed him as if he were a baby duck. Therefore as if they were migratory birds, Broly, Vegeta, Ginger, and Yam did the same. And while they were flying... Vegeta, have you noticed too? Yam said as she flew and observed the landscape around him with great amazement and concern. Yes, this place is very similar to Planet Vegeta. Too much. Vegeta replied, who believed like Yam that they had become crazy. Look, a city. And it seems that there are people, and some are very strong, Gohan said while landing. And the closer they were to that city the greater was the amazement of our group. Those people, are they human? Gohan asked rhetorically when he saw a city full of people so similar to him. No, they are Scions. But without a tail. How is it possible? BR. Bro. Broly actually created a new planet Vegeta and Scions? It's impossible, right? We're still in the movie, right? Ginger screamed with some fear at the thought of that great impossibility, while trying to find a reasonable explanation. Reasonable explanations that were very unreasonable too. Those clothes. It is the same as the scions used before joining the Cold Army. And that city is very different from the one we lived in. Is much more habitable. Yam said, who looked from one side to the other trying to understand what was happening too. However, Goku and Vegeta, despite finding all this very strange and listening to the conclusions of their companions, they kept going in search of those powerful keys. Some keys located near the training fields on the other side of the city. Bam! Tom! Kiaj! Boom! That place was one of the few places where fighting was allowed on that planet. A place where dozens of elite scions trained daily fighting each other without affecting the city's infrastructure. Bam! Tom! Kiaj! That place was one of the few places where fighting was allowed on that planet. A place where dozens of elite scions trained daily fighting each other without affecting the city's infrastructure. Bam! Tom! Kiaj! That place was spectacular and huge. Hundreds of scions were fighting at the same time. However, the most shocking thing wasn't seeing the number of scions fighting, nor the spectacular battles they were having between them, but the appearance of the fighters. So shocking was that Goku and Vegeta exclaimed with their eyes wide open and their mouths disjointed, "What? How's that possible? There are many Super Scions." And so it was. In that place there were around 200 scions, of which 82 were transformed into Super Scions fighting each other, training, discussing strategies and even teaching other younger scions how to fight and transform into Super Saiyan. How is this possible? It's supposed that the Super Saiyan was a legendary being that only appeared once every 1,000 years. Why were there more than 80 in this place? How is it possible? I knew you would make that stupid face, but I didn't expect that for so long, Broly said as he approached the groundbreaking Goku, Ginger, Yam and Vegeta, who couldn't barely vocalize and move after that big shock. What's all this? What is happening? Where we are? Is this an illusion? Another joke of yours? What have you done this time? Vegeta asked incessantly to Broly as he tried to stay calm and not faint. Where we are? We are on the planet Sadala. Well, the planet Sadala from Universe 6, another universe where the Vegeta family never existed, Broly replied as he sat down to enjoy the fights of the scions of Universe 6. Planet Sadala. Universe 6. Other universes? Everyone asked as they hyperventilated for being aware of the crazy situation they were in. Stop joking. Do you really expect us to believe a hoax like that? Yelled Vegeta, who was unable to assimilate that shocking revelation. But Broly, without taking his eyes off the fight, almost nonchalantly replied, but it's true. There are different universes. Our universe, where all of us were born, is the number 7, and the one I just teleported to us is the number 6, its brother universe. A universe in which Namekians, Scions, cold demons, Earthlings, and many other things are the same as in ours. With certain changes, and one of them is that the Scions were never part of the Cold Army and later in the Frieza Army. I can't believe it. This is too much. Vegeta said, who was trying with all his strength to continue denying the obvious, although it was becoming increasingly difficult. But, how is it possible that there are so many Super Saiyan? Ginger asked, who accepted Broly's explanation as she found it more realistic than all the other theories she had formulated in her mind so far. Obviously Broly gladly answered that question that he already expected to be asked by guiding them to this place. Why? Precisely because in this universe the Vegeta family never existed. So under the Sadala lineage the Scions became the space police. Warriors who fought to maintain order and arrest criminals who sowed chaos and violence on other worlds. They catch criminals like the Scions of the Universe 7. Wow, in that place the Scions are the good ones. And infinitely stronger, Gohan said, amazed by this unexpected turn of events. And Goku, who had experienced the Super Saiyan, understood what Broly meant and continued with his explanation, I get it. To become Super Saiyan one must reach the limit of his power and have a gentle spirit. If those conditions are met after feeling such as strong anger or sadness one can become Super Saiyan. And the reason why there are so many Super Saiyans is because the Scions in this universe are good and kind people who help others. Right, Broly? Oh ho. I see that from time to time you can think sensibly, Goku. Exactly. Broly replied as he stroked Goku's head as if he were his student Gohan, whom he praised from time to time when he answered his questions well. That answer emotionally sank Yam and Ginger, but especially Vegeta, who fell to the ground on his knees. No, that. But Broly had no mercy despite the fact that the 3 ex-evil Scions realized what Broly wanted to say by bringing them here. He decided to finish them off. Verbally, I see that you have also understood, Vegeta. In this universe the Scions took a completely different path. A path that has made them the most respected, powerful, noble and admired race in the entire universe. A race that is kind to each other, that help their fellow man and try to live in peace and protect the peace of those who dare to threaten it. This is what has made them grow stronger and fulfill the necessary conditions to become Super Saiyan. Quite the opposite of what happened to your family, the greatest criminals of our race. Which deprived the Scions of this glorious future by turning them into homicidal monsters. Monsters that would never become Super Saiyan for behaving like scum. Reason why I never wanted to know anything about you. Reason why pus comes out of my ears every time I hear you speak about you fucking Saiyan pride. If you are proud to be scum, which is precisely what has made us weaker, pathetic and almost extinct as a race, do us a favor and kill yourself silently. Hard words. Harsh words that devastated the half-broken spirit of Ginger, Yam and Vegeta when they had no other choice but to recognize that everything they had done in their lives until they met Broly was a mistake. Everything they had believed that was the correct way to live as Saiyan had been nothing more than the greatest possible heresy. And although Yam and Ginger had given a little thought over the past few weeks, the corroboration that they had been going against the interests of their race until now and that in the bottom of their hearts they hadn't completely abandoned that path completely devastated them. And as for Vegeta, it was as if he had lost his soul that he lost along with his pride. Although those same words had the completely opposite effect on Gohan and Goku, who after having witnessed how their family weren't cruel monsters and verified that the Scions as a whole were an incredibly noble race that shared their same values and motivations. For the first time they were proud to be a Saiyan. Hey Broly, can I go fight one of them? I'm dying for a good fight, Goku said, asking Broly for permission to fight with one of those Super Saiyan who were training nearby. So much talking and listening had numbed him. He needed to fight to regain his spirits. Okay, you can go play, but only 1 hour. Then we will return to the planet Earth of Universe 7-inch. Broly answered as if he were a teacher allowing his students to go out for recess. Well. Come on Gohan, we will have fun together, Goku said as he carried his son in his arms towards the training ground. In this way the minutes passed. Minutes in which Goku was having fun fighting other Scions and Gohan towards new friends his age whom he wouldn't kill with a light touch. Minutes in which Yam, Ginger and above all Vegeta tried to assimilate everything that happened so far, trying to escape the depression in which they were sunk. Minutes in which the Scions of that place noticed the presence of someone famous. Oh look. It's Broly. Broly? That Broly? What other Broly could it be? Only he has a tail and 3 eyes. Oh. The legendary Broly is here. I will ask him to sign my limited edition Broly doll. Do you think he has a girlfriend? Even if he didn't have one, I don't think he would ever notice you. Wow, such muscles. Is he really a Saiyan? I can't believe it, the great hero who revolutionized the lives of the Scions. We owe it all. I think I'm going to pass out. I can't believe he's here. I still have chills when I remember that I tried to fight against him. The great hero who unmasked the evil Frost. He seems stronger in person than in the statue. He is the strongest in the universe. The one who defeated the legendary Hit. And also a fat purple cat that seems stronger than Hit. He is the greatest. Obviously the crowd went crazy, so much so that they rushed towards Broly in order to touch their great hero. The hero who defeated Frost, unmasking his criminal plot, defeated Hit, the strongest assassin in the universe, faced the god of destruction and showed the entire planet how to transform into Super Saiyan. Transformation that was easily overpowered by the kind Scions of the Universe 6. Thus creating the Golden Age of Scions. And granting Broly a great status all over the planet in due to his great contribution. Statues that Vegeta noticed. Broly, you. What are you? Vegeta asked upon see everything he was capable of, everything he knew and how the Scions of that universe admired him. They admired him more than a king, more than his father, more than any other Scion ever admired him. And now he knew that he never deserved their admiration. Me? I am the true legendary Super Saiyan. Baby. Broly replied, who didn't receive the final ovation he expected from his beloved public, who kept asking for autographs and other revalued bullshit to resell in the space Amazon. So he tried again, slightly changing his method. I am the true legendary Super Saiyan who invites everyone to beer. Broly said as he materialized millions of beer jars around the entire training ground. All the surrounding Saiyans shouted euphorically, especially those with alcohol addiction. Am I the best, right? Broly shouted as he received the deserved ovations from a whole planet full of Super Saiyan, who nodded and chanted his name as if he were a rock star in a concert. Yees. Broly. 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 Can we leave now? Vegeta asked as he drowned his sorrows in one of the beer mugs Broly had materialized. Broly. 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 Hours later. As the party got too long, they all returned to planet Earth. And among all of them, there was someone very excited about what had happened. Ahiya. It has been awesome. Frieza first, then those Super Saiyans. I never thought I could fight such strong guys in one day. Broly, can you send me to Universe 6 once in a while so I can train with them? Goku said as he begged Broly like he was a little boy asking his parents to go to Diny World every weekend. I am afraid it is not possible. Traveling between universes is not something to be taken lightly. Illegal intra-university immigration is somewhat serious. If I exceed myself, they may come to complain about me. But if you behave well I will let you fight against my friends in my dimension, Broly said, crunching Goku's dreams, but also giving him new goals to focus on. Okay. By the way, where's Gohan? Asked Goku, who noticed his son's absence after a minute. I have put him back in his bed, replacing him with the fake Gohan that I put in his place in case Chi-Chi woke up and paid him a night visit. It is the least you can do when you kidnap a child in his bed at night to take him to another universe on Christmas Day, Broly replied, showing a certain degree of responsibility. And what will we do with those 3-inch? Goku said, pointing to Vegeta, Ginger, and Yam. Which were? Give me another. Ginger, you shouldn't drink that much. You have drunk as much as I have, sister. Because you have put the beer directly in my mouth, otherwise I would have been unable to drink. Good children don't drink alcohol either. My whole life is a failure. Our whole life is a failure, Vegeta. It comforts me to know that being the youngest of all I have been the one that less waste. Shut up, Ginger, or I'll, fuck. I keep doing and saying the same thing, in this way I'll never become a Super Saiyan. They are fucking drunk. I will take them to Mutant Rashi's house when they start having a hangover. In the meantime, I'll enjoy asking them hard to answer questions, and then I'll make loud noises to cause them some headaches. You go home with your wife and your son and learn something of my illusion, please. Broly said, subtly reminding Goku that this extremely long illusion had a didactic purpose. Hee hee. Yes. I'll try to help a little more at home, when I'm not training. Aish, it will be difficult to return to normality, for me more than a decade has passed. Goku said as he scratched his head in search of his memories of the year 762 and tried to eliminate all the others he stored from Broly's infinite Tsukiyomi. For your own good, you better do it. You promised your wife to do a lot of things before you went to Namek. Goodbye, Broly said while snapping his fingers. And instantly, Goku was forcibly teleported somewhere. A place seemed too familiar to him. I'm in. And the scream behind him instantly confirmed his suspicions. Goku? Have you already arrived? Why haven't you knocked on the door to enter? What? Chi-Chi. Goku yelled as he encountered the most difficult enemy to beat that day. However, Chi-Chi had some mercy with her husband, whom she hadn't seen in months and was surely tired after a long journey. Well, doesn't matter, it's too late. Go to bed to rest. But not too much mercy either, because tomorrow you have a lot of pending tasks that you promised me to do. Besides that. What's wrong? Chi-Chi asked as she observed her husband's strange expression, who got very close to her and didn't blink as he watched her face. Goku had been living for over a decade in Broly's Tsukiyomi. From his point of view it is as if he had traveled more than 10 years in the past, and obviously this was reflected in the appearance of Chi-Chi, which he watched with great attention and fascination. Wow, your skin is much softer and thinner than I remembered, Goku said as he touched and caressed Chi-Chi's face with both his hands, with his face just a few inches from her. Unconscious tactic that made the angry beast blush, and almost mute, eh? Oh. Goku. What are you saying? And also misunderstanding Goku's intentions, although after a month of absence this wasn't something entirely crazy either, have you missed me so much these weeks? This. Yes? Goku replied affirmatively upon seeing that his wife had calmed down, for whatever reason. And upon receiving that affirmative answer Chi-Chi momentarily separated from Goku and approached Gohan's room. And after checking that everything was still the same as a few minutes ago, she returned to Goku's side, which she grabbed by the hand. Come on, let's go to bed, but in silence. Gohan's still sleeping, it wouldn't be nice if we woke him up. Hi. Chi-Chi said, guiding his husband to bed with a perverted look that says, we are going to fuck right now. This, okay, Goku replied, who still didn't know what was happening. Thanks to this convenient unexpected situation, our unconscious hero was able to reassure his bossy wife, and Chi-Chi managed to get her husband to pay attention to her in a quite productive and pleasant way. Oh. Yes. Oh. UFFF. Fuck. Oh. Goku. Where have you learned to do that? This? You taught me how to do it when? Wait a minute, maybe it was Broly who taught me. And Gohan, who had pretended to be asleep until now, since having traveled to another universe would keep awake any restless child with a lot of energy, lived a night that he would never forget. Although it is what he would like. Came house. The next morning. Broly, Mutant Rashi, Krillin and Yumagame were quietly arguing on the sofa, enjoying the cake and fruit juice that Broly had made for them. Let's see if I understand. Are there other universes? Yumagame asked as he drank some of the juice served from a bowl. Yes, Broly answered elegantly while eating a piece of cake with the elegance of a Prussian king. And did you travel to another universe where scions exist and are not evil? Krillin asked, eating a strawberry that fell from his piece of cake. Yes, Broly replied as he crossed his legs like a British queen. And precisely because they are not evil many of them are super scions just like Goku, Mutant Rashi asked while wiping the crumbs of cake from his face. Exactly, Broly replied as he crossed his fingers as if he were Mr. Burns. Very good. But what I still don't understand is, why do we have to host Vegeta, Yam and Ginger in this house? Don't you remember that a few months ago they tried to kill us all? Krillin protested on behalf of his teacher, with more than logical fear despite having fought circumstantially on the same team the other day. Come on, it's not that terrible. Everyone has promised to behave well, otherwise they will not be able to become Super Saiyan, and Yam has no other choice. In addition, they will almost never be here since they will be training or using one of my spaceships, which they will pay me in installments, to train in space, with more complicated climates. Also, they may end up moving out soon. And they have promised to bring money home to pay for expenses or help with household chores while they stay here. A bargain, Broly said, recounting only the good thing about hosting those intergalactic criminals. And why don't you take him into Bulma's house? It's bigger, said Yumagame, providing a quite respectable argument. However, it wasn't for Broly. Are you crazy? That is not my house and I am trying to establish a good love relationship with Bulma. Having those 3 bachelors would be an hindrance. And that's why you're handing them to us, everyone thought except Broly. Ah. What remedy? I can't refuse to accept a favor from you. I owe you a lot so far, Mutant Rashi replied, agreeing to Broly's terms and conditions. Broly had helped him a lot until now, such as giving him back his youth, increasing his power, bringing delicious food, giving him a virtual reality machine for porn. Okay Rashi, I knew I could count on you. Hey guys. They say yes. Enter to meet your new tenant. Come on. Don't be timid, Broly yelled as he peeked out for sale. And obviously out there on the beach were Ginger, Yam, and Vegeta, waiting next to Broly's spaceship. TSH. I'm not going to go in there, Vegeta said with his usual good humor while crossing his arms. Despite what he had learned on planet Sadala, it was difficult to change overnight. Besides, he didn't want to associate with those weaklings. Okay, I'm going, but don't scream so much, my head hurts. Said Ginger, who was moving towards the interior of the Kame house suffering the negative consequences of drinking excessively, the hangover. Okay, go, we will go alone. Yam said as she tried to look away, since she wasn't very happy about the situation. What? How? do you agree with this? I thought. Vegeta exclaimed in amazement to see that the overprotective Yam allowed her sister to maintain social interactions with those idiots, abominations, and extreme perverts. I have my complaints, but Ginger is no longer the weak girl from before. It's almost as strong as you and me. I don't need to protect her as much, for now. She has to make her own decisions and I have to respect them, or at least tolerate them, for now. Also, at least some of us should try to get along with them. I think, replied Yam, who after experiencing all those situations, tragedies and revelations the last months, plus a year, she decided that was time to really try to change. That curse is affecting you more than I thought, Vegeta said, covered in cold sweat as he thought about how dangerous Gohan and his ability to manipulate people is. Some method that is not in the list of prohibitions that Broly has given us. So dress like an earthling so as not to create suspicions, Yam said as he entered the spaceship to change his clothes. And of course she also threw some clothes at Vegeta, who refused to enter. Because, above all, he refused to wear a shirt and jeans that weren't designed for combat. What? You expect the Prince of the Scions to dress like? But Yam, without giving him time to continue with his speech, out of place in these circumstances she reminded him of where they were and what situation they were in. If the Prince of the Scions wants to continue living on this peaceful planet, become Super Saiyan, defeat Kakarot and possibly one day defeat Broly. You should listen to me and integrate yourself as best as possible into this society that has given birth to two Super Saiyan. And that starts with dressing like them. Vegeta yelled with extreme frustrations and pain by not knowing how to contradict those arguments in any way, no matter how hard he tried and wanted. Am I really doomed to wear this? First, put on your pants and shirt. We have to earn enough to buy a separate piece of land on which to park the ship and stop living near them or anyone else. Regarding work, we will prioritize high-risk independent jobs with high monetary compensation. You don't have enough time, regularity, or patience, especially to accept someone's orders. In addition, we have to train so we cannot spend 8 hours daily working and obviously we should take advantage of our power to make a profit. Maybe we could be bounty hunters, treasure hunters, fighters or something like that. We should be able to earn a good living, Yem said, dressed in shorts and a tight top, Broly's selection, as she began to make future plans for them taking into account all the variables, but without taking into account Vegeta's opinion. Since she had determined and with very good judgment that Vegeta wasn't in the capacities to take reasonable decisions about his life right now. Damn. Vegeta kicked seeing that he had lost all initiative in this relationship, which was no longer from leader to subordinate. Inside the Kame house. Oh. This cake is delicious. Is all the food on this planet that good? Is this your secret? Ginger shouted with great enthusiasm and happiness after tasting part of the cake that Broly had brought. More or less, but what Broly does is on another level, Yumagame replied trying to be nice to the new temporary tenant. Wow. A talking turtle. Ginger yelled when she saw that strange animal talking. Yes. I had recently introduced myself, you wasn't paying attention. Sure, Yumagame lamented upon see that from years ago he had ceased to be relevant in this story, if he ever was. Hey. Are you going to eat that bald dwarf? Ginger asked intimidatingly as if she were a criminal to Krillin, pointing to his piece of cake. My name is Krillin. Answered Krillin, who obviously felt intimidated, self-conscious and looked down on by Ginger's attitude. What does that matter to me? Ginger replied as she devoured the portion of Krillin's pie without permission. As if she were an extremely happy adorable hamster. Subarashi. Thus creating a great contrast to her bravado from before. Mutant Rashi-sama, are you sure about this? She is practically like the blonde Launch but infinitely stronger, so much that she can destroy you with a single finger, and eat like Goku. But this one when she sneezes doesn't turns a good girl, Krillin whispered to Mutant Rashi, expressing his obvious concerns. Krillin, don't make it harder for me. Mutant Rashi replied to his student as he tried to reply with a euphemism of, I am thinking with my penis, that didn't too negative for him. I'm starting to like this place. By the way. What is that machine? Ginger asked pointing to the pornographic virtual reality machine. This is nothing. Mutant Rashi yelled with evident panic as he prayed for someone to interrupt that embarrassing and critical moment. Girls. I hear someone inside. That crap and his dwarf and bald minion are back. Great. Sisters. Let that crappy sexist, machist and patriarchal oppressor that do manspreading here us. His prayers were heard. However they weren't well interpreted. Oh no. It's that army of orcs again. Is incredible. It's been over a month since that, and are they still coming? They have nothing better to do. Mutant Rashi said as he watched in disgust as dozens of orcs invaded his beach. Bald dwarf minion. Krillin protested once again by the contempt that was beginning to affect his self-esteem. Outside the house, from their boats and on the beach, the feminists began their invasion while shouting and singing shitty songs. Y la culpa no era mia ni donde estaba ni donde vestia. El violator iris too. El violator iris too. That's all we need now. They have started singing and dancing. And it seems that they are camping, said Mutant Rashi, tired of hearing those braise and see lilac-stained undepolished armpits dancing in the air on his island. What the hell is this noise? Ginger asked, who obviously didn't know what's happening. Let's say that after the fight against you, these girls come every day to annoy Mutant Rashi-sama, and try to change the world for better in this way. This month I have been able to hide and camouflage myself like a normal turtle, but now? Yumagame replied, who wanted to feel himself useful. Do you intend to change the world by singing and dancing? These guys are idiots. And how long will they be here? They are very annoying, Ginger asked again while looking out the window. They can be doing this for hours, Mutant Rashi replied, showing great exhaustion, thinking that he would be martyred for hours again. Hours? Is it possible to know why you haven't thrown them out? Ginger asked once again, not understanding that absurd nonsense. Question that obviously caught Krillin and Rashi by surprise. They had all the means available to drive 100 or millions of feminists off by force. Well, you see. We don't. But obviously I couldn't. They were too chivalrous and these were normal women, more or less. TSCH. What a lack of balls. Get away, I'll take care of it. Ginger said as she walked out of the front door, as angry as the women protesting outside. Oh no. She is going to kill them. Krillin and Mutant Rashi shouted with obvious fears more than justified. It's women time. Millions of men. Why animal test? Chop the cock. And as the orcs continued to scream, someone opened the door. And that someone is a woman. Then is a sister coming out of the door of that house of terror. How is it possible? One of the protesters shouted, who didn't understand why a woman was on the side of those guys, since in her head she believed that all women think or should weigh the same as her. Impossible. She is not one of us. She is beautiful and doesn't dye her hair. Shouted a protester who dressed, cared and combed to be as ugly as possible for stupid political reasons. She is alienated. Go for her, girls. For the sorority. One of the queen bees of that hive of annoying and murderous wasps screamed for them to carry out her will. But before they could release any more expletives or do other stupid thing. Shut up your fucking mouth for once. Gringer screamed, mixing that sound wave with his ki to make the sound wave incredibly powerful. So powerful that echoed even though they were in the middle of the ocean. So powerful that broke the windows of the boats in front of her. So powerful that destroyed the eardrums of almost all the protesters. So powerful that they all flew into the water or ships due to the blast wave. It was as if a non-combustion bomb had exploded in the middle of the island. An explosion that knocked everyone out. And after a few seconds in which those who remained standing managed to process what had happened and regained part of the sense of hearing. Some of the survivors shouted, loading their nearly dead companions onto the ships to run away from that island and possibly not come back upon seeing that the other party wasn't going to tolerate their stupidities anymore. Relax, you can go out. I haven't hit anyone. I'm not a violent girl anymore, Ginger said to Mutant Rashi, Yumagame and Krillin, who had some broken crystals on their faces. You almost killed some despite that, Mutant Rashi answered as he went outside to see the great mess. They have asked for it. I'm not going to let anyone ruin my new quiet life where I'm going to live from now on. Or let them mess with my new friend. Ginger replied as she crossed her arms and kicked the few protesters that were near her towards the shore. Then, from now on, aren't you going with your sister and Vegeta? Asked Mutant Rashi, who didn't expect the supposed temporary stay to become a permanent one. Well, I'd rather leave them alone, you know what I mean. And, well, this house is beautiful, and it is in a quiet and beautiful place. You have delicious food. And, I heard that you were the master of the Super Saiyan Goku, so if I'm close to you, I will probably learn how to become one too. And, I need someone to help me learn to detect the ki of others. And, besides, You did all those indecent things to me. So, take responsibility. Baka, said Ginger, very flushed and embarrassed. In definitive, in Sundra mode, over 9,000 multiplied by over 9,000. So much so that even idiots like Mutant Rashi and Krillin understood what she was trying to say. Hi. Krillin and Yumagame shouted upon C and understood what was happening without understanding very well why they were seeing what they saw and understanding what they understood. He was Master Rashi. This couldn't be happening. Jejejej. Yees. My second youth is not over. Mutant Rashi shouted with great happiness at the same time that he was bleeding from the nose. I think this is the moment when I should seriously consider looking for a girlfriend, Krillin thought when he saw that almost all his close friends had or were leaving the single life. At Bulma's house. At the laboratory. Hello Bulma. I'm already at home, Broly said as he walked through the door to the lab. Oh hello darling. How was the meeting about the company's new products? Was my father nervous? Bulma asked, who was making adjustments on a huge spherical machine. No, that body is still in the meeting with your father, and everything is fine. I mean, I have already returned from Namek with the boys, Broly replied, who really never left the planet. One of his bodies always was with Bulma, Gohan, and the others. And one of those things was to enter Capsula Corp as a partner and engineer, from where various machines of extraterrestrial and multiversal technology were distributed, of which he had appropriated and invented to collaborate with the family business. Ah, I see, we have so many bodies lately that I don't know what you're doing. Everything went well then. Pass me the torch please, another Bulma answered, who wasn't at all not very interested in what had happened in Namek. She knew that everything would be solved in some way. Really? Weren't you worried? Not the slightest surprise or curiosity. Broly asked, pretending to be a little angry for that pacifism. Darling, you can stop time, revive the dead, you have parallel dimensions and many other things. The fact that you have gone to another planet with a spaceship that we built together and have motivated the team to defeat a group of evil aliens, I find it even normal coming from you. I don't think any of that can surprise me at this point, said Bulma, teasing her boyfriend while continuing to modify that spherical machine. Really? Nor are you surprised that I have changed a planet's position in the universe, that I made life sprout on it, and that it took Goku, Gohan, Vegeta, Ginger, and Yam to another universe where the Saiyans are good and stronger? And that Vegeta, Ginger, and Yam have redeemed themselves and now live on Earth? Broly asked with obvious sarcasm. Okay, that is interesting. How about you tell me everything once I'm done with this? Bulma asked, who was especially interested in the other universes of the new Scions residing on Earth. And what do you think if after that explanation your bodies and my bodies try to create more bodies? Broly asked as he multiplied and stood behind all the Bulmas inside the lab in an obviously suggestive way. Why not? I hope the explanation is not too long, the Bulma replied conscientiously. Elsewhere in the universe. In an operating room. After multiple and strange interventions. Someone surrounded by multiple surgeons, engineers and scientists who didn't wear a gown in general. He got up from the bed. Frieza-sama. The staff shouted when they saw how the Emperor of the Universe rose once more to commit evil plans. We'll be going to Earth next, Dad. So that we can kill the Super Saiyan and that fucking abomination called Broly, Frieza said right after getting out of bed, not even saying thanks for the rescue and resuscitation. If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.